Hello, this is Michael Wojcik with a City Council update for Wednesday, September 4th, 2013. Because of the holiday on Monday, our City Council meeting was on a Wednesday. Only going to talk about two things today, and the first one is very brief. First month or so with the Pedal Pub, I never really had a whole lot of issues. They were pretty well behaved. Subsequent to that, got a lot of issues. So at the end of the City Council meeting today, I did politely ask that we'd schedule a meeting at the committee of the whole, and we'd have the business in, and we could discuss their recent behavior because I think there have been some issues, and not particularly pleased with the way some of the folks on there are behaving in our neighborhoods and our downtown. So I like to give businesses a chance, but some things need to be fixed there. Biggest thing today, as it was last time, the fifth on fifth development, we had the facts and findings from the city attorney. In the end, not a single vote flipped, and I don't expect that there's going to be a mayor's veto on this one either. I think it's probably at this point reached some point of finality, even though most of my friend, a lot of longtime friends and supporters are very disappointed in my decision to support this thing, and didn't necessarily have to get involved. Could have just voted against it from the start, and it would have still passed 4-3, but would have been, a way to save face on my own behalf. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the process. What went into the decision. Again, I'm not going to go as in depth. If you want to see that, go watch the video from 2 weeks ago, and then a little bit of an aside on some of the political stuff that came up, and just life being on the city council. So first of all, what I said is, I hope that the neighborhood, I know they disagree with the decision, but I hope they understand that they were heard. I went to great lengths to try and meet with, communicate with every single person who contacted me on the issue, explain where I'm coming from, what the criteria was, what I was basing my decision on, and that even though they disagree with the decision, they could see some thought went into the decision. And I hope that that came across. And even with some people that I disagreed with last night in meeting with them, they understood that, we're not gonna agree on this one. And I told them I'm going to be there, continuing to do the best I can for the neighborhood. It just wasn't going to happen on this one. The ultimately the decision. There's two separate pieces. One, whether the restricted development was appropriate, whether it was used, whether the law was followed. All of those things, staff is crystal clear on that. That staff and the city attorney are clear that the process was appropriate, it was used correctly. I'm not interested in revisiting those issues. The attorney that we have to represent the city council made it very clear that, that was the correct process, and I'm not really interested in getting into them. I'm not an attorney, but I defer to their judgment on this one, and they've been right pretty often. The big thing on this one is and always has been compatibility, and I'm not gonna. And I made the comment today too that doing what was perhaps I'll separate from doing what was correct and what was right, because I'm pretty confident that we made the correct decision. I'm not entirely sure that it's the right decision. I think that we need to do better in the future, and I'm concerned about the precedent-setting nature of this because we have so many areas there that have the high-density residential land use under it, but they don't have but there's no comprehensive plan in place that's going to guide that development. And this was a more than a year-long process that really, I think things evolved quite a bit. I mean, the neighborhood doesn't feel that things changed so much, but we started out with the neighborhood and the developer far apart, and we ended up with the neighborhood and the developer far apart, and over a 1 year process. And I hope that some of the changes we made do end up benefiting the neighborhood in the long run. In terms of compatibility, what I say very simply is the whole area west of downtown, the Falwell, Kutzke, southwest. There's more than 20 buildings that are that are very similar to what's being proposed here. A lot of them are on blocks with everything else on that block is single family residential home, much as this. And there's this whole thing about what do you define the neighborhood, and some people that I trust very much, have the world of respect for, said that, well, you got to look at it this way, you got to look at it this way. And here's what it ended up coming down to me. If I take this site and I draw a 1 block radius, I can find buildings that are a higher density. If I draw a 2 block radius, I can find buildings that are higher density, again, mixed in with these single family homes. If I look at the neighborhood as the neighborhood's designed, I can find higher density buildings, again, mixed right in with the neighborhood. If I look at that whole area west, same thing. And what it keeps coming back to is, is this consistent with what exists in the neighborhood today? And the neighborhood makes a whole bunch of good points. Is it consistent with this block? It's not. Is it consistent with the vision for that neighborhood? I don't believe it is. Is it consistent with should we be considering things that were built pre-zoning 100 years ago? Well, our guidance is yes, we look at the neighborhood as it exists today. And, based on all this, I believe that this is consistent with what's in the neighborhood, even though if it's not desired it's not what's desired for that spot. I also believe that there's a need going forward to modify the process, particularly the restricted development process. This is a process that was put in place a long time ago, and the process that we had there never brought anyone together. And I hope that some of the changes that were made really do end up making this a better building. I mean, I think I ended up making nobody happy. I said earlier, I could have just said no to this thing from the start and let it pass 4-3, and but I don't believe that would have been the correct decision. Based on the guidance that we had. In making some of the recommended changes I did, there were some things in terms of the appearance of the building, much like buildings that currently exist in the area that, they don't have window air units sticking out of every single unit. They don't have, the streetscape tends to be quite a bit nicer with those buildings. And then there was a request for some utilities, and we made some, I proposed some changes to try and put in place the things that, to try and make this building a little bit more compatible with what's there, make it a little bit more pedestrian friendly, a little bit more neighborhood friendly. And in doing so, interestingly, Bruce Snyder felt that we should not, make any recommendations or changes or conditions after we have a public hearing. And to me, I think that's, it's wrong for two reasons. One, you can't tell me that we're supposed to have a public hearing to listen to what the public has to say and then not make any not do any thinking based on what those people say, just yes or no and no possible changes. It seems foolish to me to do it that way. But more importantly, it's something that is absolutely allowed. The conditions are allowed. So we did do some things, and I don't, ultimately what I did is instead of being 4-3 with me not involved in it and getting it passing, it became 4-3, but really there were 5 in support of the project, and I believe the mayor as well, and I think that we all kind of feel that we'd like to see it smaller on the site, but that's not the, that we don't believe that avenue is given up. There were some other things that came up in terms of Type 3 compatibility that dealt with some specific things being related to height. Ultimately, I won't say that I'm comfortable with the decision, but I think that I made the right decision. The other thing I said is that I don't believe that this building is going to harm the neighborhood in the long run, but I'm not sure. I really don't know, but I take a lot of classes on, what makes neighborhoods successful, how do you create vibrant urban places, and I believe this is going to be, though it's not what's desired to be there, I think the neighbor is going to be okay and not take harm from this. But I'm not certain, and I really, we won't be certain until we see the results. But what I would say is I've supported a lot of things that were incredibly unpopular with neighbors that turned out being pretty good in the long run. The Cascade Creek project, the Good Food Store Co-op that opened today, there were a lot of people that were passionate, and that was an issue when I ran for re-election, was people, they were going to do everything they could to get me off the city council because I supported the merger when I was on the Good Food Store board, and ultimately talk about a great decision. Just go down there and check out the building. It's absolutely amazing. So Orchard Hills Villas, adamant opposition from the neighbors, but with a couple of exceptions, just about everybody, now that they see the finished product, realize, yeah, no issues here. Not only that, but not only did it not lower or degrade from the neighborhood, the values for the Orchard Hills Villas are actually substantially above that of adjacent properties, which is very good to see as well. So I want to get to the politics side and the life on the city council. And what made this particularly hard is I said that, I tried to reach out to everybody. I tried to meet with everybody that I possibly could. I always try and do that. It's a courtesy to the people that I represent, even when I disagree. And what was so hard about this is two of my two largest clients both had some key things going on where I had to do a lot of work here at the towards the end of August. So I didn't have the availability that I sometimes have. I mean, I typically work 40 to 55 hours on the city council every week, and usually about 20, 25, hard dedicated on my work, but sometimes it balloons up a lot more than that. And then, I got home from the city council meeting today to, help get a crying 2-year-old to bed as well. There's a lot going on, and I wish I had more time to make sure that to really follow up with everybody. But even as this decision was coming up, and I'm checking my email immediately before the meeting, didn't have time to respond to anything, but I just wrote, just read their notes, and at the bottom just responded, read, read, read. And so I do believe people were heard. Most people, and a lot of friends here, we disagree on this. I get that. I completely get that. I know that folks are emotionally invested in it. Most people have been pretty civil. A few of you haven't. And that's particularly disappointing to me. When people go off on me that we're gonna destroy you, we're gonna make sure you, never, hold this seat again. My first response is, well, okay, first of all, you're making the assumption that I'm going to run again. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. And what I said at the meeting today, and I'll direct this, specifically to those of you that were threatening to destroy me politically because I have one vote here that you disagree with after working my butt off for the neighborhood and continuing to for 5 years now, and that is, what do you think I'm getting out of this? What do you think I enjoy doing things that are unpopular with the neighborhood? And the fact that you sit there and you think that people think that they can threaten me politically, and I've seen this time and time again. Same thing happened with Orchard Hills Villa. Same thing happened with the food co-op. Same thing happened with Cascade Creek. I mean, what do you think you're going to accomplish by doing that? The reality is, and I've said this a number of times, as soon as I sit there and I change the decision, which I feel is the correct decision, because I think it's going to be more politically popular, I don't deserve the seat in the first place. So yeah, I get it. I made a decision that some of you really disagree with, and if this is going to be the one issue which just makes me completely unacceptable to you, I'm probably not your guy anyway. So I get that some of you are frustrated. What I would say is take a deep breath. I think this building's actually going to open up next spring. Take that hatred and just remember how much you hate me and everything, but wait till the building's done. See how it impacts the neighborhood, see what the real impact is. And I know that a lot of you aren't going to like it. A lot of people don't like Orchard Hills Villas. A lot of people don't like Cascade Creek. A lot of people hate the fact that we merged with the La Crosse Co-op. But sit on it for a little bit. See how the building turns out. I think you'll see that some of the details and some of the changes and, the reduction in size, which I know wasn't, I wish we had reduced the size a little bit more. I know that you don't think those are big things right now, but I think when you see the finished product, it's not going to be as bad as you think. And I don't say that to, thumb my nose at you and say that you're entirely wrong, because I'm not sure that I'm right about this, but I do believe we did some things that are going to be very positive for the neighborhood. As I've done for 5 years, I'm committed to processes that empower neighborhoods a little bit more. And, but I'm also very particular about, protecting the rights of people that are sometimes unpopular as well. And I think when I say sometimes unpopular, probably the developer, Mac Hamilton, fits in that category in this particular neighborhood. I know I've had my disagreements with Mac in the past as well. But, I understand, if any of you are, I don't know if any of you lose as much sleep over some of these decisions as I do, but this has been very difficult for me because I had so many close friends that were on the other side. And, let's regroup, talk there. I will continue showing up at the neighborhood meetings. I will take my lumps as I always do. And, in the end, I hope we did something that's okay for the community, okay for the neighborhood. I think great things are happening to the Southwest, and the big picture thing that I always say is the only thing worse than development interest in your neighborhood is no development interest in your neighborhood. And let's do our best to preserve the great things that are there. Let's try and avoid the future historic structures getting knocked down. And we've got a lot of work to do together on that. And if we can get that done, that's something positive that'll come out of this. But I hope none of you, feel that I'm doing this despite the neighborhood. And trust me, I know if I wanted to make the popular decision with the most of my constituents in that area, I know what the answer was on that, and I gave my reasons otherwise. So thank you for your patience with me. And maybe at the next coming up neighborhood picnic or something, I suggested we'll get like a dunk tank and do a little neighborhood fundraiser or something like that. Although if we were to do that, we'd probably bring in a lot of other groups as well. So anyways, thank you for watching, and we'll see how it goes.